I never expected a simple password reset request to drag me into something that would change the way I look at every job, every message, every anonymous username on the deep web. Usually these tasks are routine, boring even. People think hackers spend their days smashing through firewalls and dancing through encrypted tunnels. The truth is that half of my jobs are digital janitorial work. Fixing access issues, pulling logs, cleaning up messes clients are too embarrassed or too clueless to handle. So, when a private message popped up on one of my secure inboxes asking for a quick password reset, I didn't think twice. I should have. Because that single innocent request was the doorway to the most dangerous contract I've ever taken. One that nearly cost me my freedom, my sanity, and everything I thought I knew about staying hidden in the shadows. The hook for me wasn't the pay. It rarely is. It wasn't even the urgency in the client's tone. It was the simplicity. Too simple. When someone comes to the deep web for a job that any mediocre help desk technician could handle, it raises questions. Why me? Why here? Why through channels that require multiple layers of encryption and a reputation check just to say hello? Still, curiosity is a powerful motivator. So is confidence. The kind you build over years thinking you've seen everything. You think you can handle anything, and that arrogance becomes your blind spot. That's where this story begins. The client went by the username Winter Halo. Generic enough to blend in, not unique enough to track by handle alone. Their message was short. I need access back to my account. Password forgotten, two-factor inaccessible, will pay well. No context, no details, no system mentioned, just that. I replied asking what platform, expecting something basic like a locked social media login, a crypto wallet, or maybe access to a private server they couldn't authenticate into anymore. The answer I got back was the first sign something wasn't normal. The system isn't public. I'll send instructions. I paused. Private systems usually mean internal corporate networks, secure nodes, or off-grid infrastructure someone shouldn't be anywhere near. That would usually be a red flag, but the technique they used to send the follow-up instructions impressed me. Instead of replying normally, they sent a file disguised as a corrupted image. The image contained embedded metadata that, once decoded, unfolded into a small text payload. It held an IP address, not a standard one, and a note. Credentials provided once you confirm connection. If someone gives you an IP that doesn't map to anything public, you check everything. You scan ranges. You interrogate routing paths. You investigate digital fingerprints. This one didn't resolve normally. It sat behind an onion-based relay system I'd never seen before. Clean, efficient, and completely isolated. Almost like a private darknet inside the darknet. Whoever built it had resources, skill, infrastructure, the kind of setup that doesn't belong to average individuals. That's when I should have walked away. When something smells like a trap, it usually is. But there's a strange thrill when you stumble on architecture that feels alien, like walking into a forest and finding a perfectly engineered steel cube with no seams. You want to know who built it, why, and what they're hiding. So I connected. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the session resolved, and a login screen appeared. No branding, no labels, just a single input field and a blinking cursor. The whole interface felt sterile, intentionally minimalistic, the kind of environment where mistakes aren't tolerated. A few seconds later, Winter Halo messaged again. Now that you're connected, here are the temporary credentials for a restricted profile. Do not explore. Do not navigate beyond the instructions. Reset only. The paranoia in that message was obvious. But paranoia is often justified in my world. I authenticated using the credentials and entered the system. At first glance, it looked like a user management hub, lists of accounts, statuses, authentication logs. But the entries were unusual. Instead of usernames, they were strings of alphanumeric codes that didn't resemble typical corporate handles. No emails, no human-friendly identifiers, just tags like X43, D19, L88, and so on. Rows and rows of them, thousands. More than what you'd see in a small business. Less than what you'd see in a tech giant. Perfectly in the middle. Which is exactly the range used by private research groups, intelligence contractors, and underground organizations that don't want anything tied to real identities. I didn't touch anything yet. I kept my hands still, letting my eyes scan before acting. The restricted profile Winter Halo gave me had read-only access except for the ability to perform password resets on specific accounts, a small handful out of the huge list. That in itself was strange. If someone simply forgot a password, why restrict my access this tightly? Why not give me direct control to change it? Why go through a relay tunnel that took 3 separate authentication layers to reach? Why all the secrecy for something so basic? Then I clicked on the account they wanted reset D19, and that's when I froze. Because D19 wasn't like the rest. While other accounts had minimal metadata, creation date, last login, access flags, D19 had a hidden log entry, one I wasn't supposed to see. It popped up for only a moment before my restricted permissions hit it again, but in that split second, I saw enough to know I was in far deeper than a typical job. The log entry read, Observation Node, Active. Observation Node. That term means something in certain corners of the deep web. It's associated with projects where subjects, digital or physical, are monitored, tracked, analyzed. Not harmless analytics, not business intelligence. The kind of monitoring where someone's entire existence is shadowed by a system built to predict what they'll do next. And whoever D19 was, they were an active subject. Winter Halo messaged again. Did you locate the account? I typed back, yes, about to reset. But I hesitated. If I reset the password blindly, I could be altering access for someone under observation by a group that clearly didn't want outsiders inside their system. If I didn't reset it, they would know I stalled. Neither option felt safe, so I used a trick I've learned for situations exactly like this. I pretended to perform the reset while quietly creating a snapshot of the request log. Nothing alarming, nothing that would alter the system, just a time-stamped note that looked like passive system noise. The goal was to create plausible deniability if things went wrong. Something to point at later and say, that anomaly was system-generated, not my doing. Then I executed the reset. The system accepted it instantly, too instantly. Most secure nodes have delay timers or verification steps. This one updated the credential hash the moment I hit the command. That meant only 2 things. Either the system had extraordinarily optimized processing, which is rare, or the password wasn't the important part. The action itself, the reset, was the signal. Something designed to trigger a process elsewhere. Seconds later, the relay connection flickered. The interface froze, and a new message appeared from Winter Halo. Stay connected. Do not leave the session. My pulse rose. Because no one says that unless something is happening behind the scenes. The terminal cleared itself completely. Lines of code wiped out as though someone had pressed a digital reset handle. Then, a new window opened, one I didn't request, showing a feed of system logs updating in real time. At first, the entries looked routine. Authentication pings, routing nodes, encryption checks. But then entries started appearing that didn't belong to a standard access system. Tracking beacon enabled. Subject relocation in progress. External interference, none detected. Observer channel, awaiting handshake. I leaned back in my chair. My room felt different suddenly, colder. I'd just triggered something more than a password change. This wasn't about restoring access. This was about activating a protocol, one tied to a subject being tracked in the real world. I typed to Winter Halo, "What did I just reset?" No response. I waited. Seconds passed like minutes. Then the system log updated again. Handshake received. Geoposition confirmed. Extraction window 0317. Extraction. They weren't resetting someone's access. They were preparing to physically take someone. That's when my instinct screamed at me to disconnect. Tear down the connection, purge memory, drop the relay paths, wipe everything. But I couldn't. Because when I reached for the keyboard, I saw something else appear, something that made my stomach turn. A new line, a new process. Secondary target identified, fingerprint matched. Then another line under it. Designation, operator, D19 reset executor. Me. They tagged me. The system had just fingerprinted my digital signature through the relay tunnel. Even though I masked everything, even though I used layered proxies, unknown hardware, segmented encryption, something in that infrastructure still picked up enough to mark me as a secondary target. And if a system this advanced marked you, it meant someone on the other side now had your thread. Maybe not a full identity, but a thread. And all threads lead somewhere if pulled hard enough. My mouth went dry. I typed to Winter Halo. What is happening? Why am I flagged? Still no answer. But the system kept updating, tracking secondary, proximity scan, routing nodes enumerated, trace window initiated. I wasn't safe anymore, not behind my setup, not behind layers of anonymity. Something out there was following the digital scent of my connection and unraveling it fast. And it wasn't just a trace. A trace window meant a timed event, a countdown until the system finished collecting enough metadata to profile me. I stood up, heart pounding, and started powering down everything. My workstation, my backup node, even the isolated device I used for deep web operations. A machine with no physical drive, no persistent memory, meant to die clean every time. But before I disconnected the final relay, a last message came through from Winter Halo. Don't disconnect. If you do, they'll complete the trace. I'm trying to lock them out. For a moment, I didn't know whether to believe them. They were the one who brought me into this. But the urgency felt real, so I paused, just long enough to see another message. I didn't expect them to react this fast. Hold on. Them. Who were they? And why was Winter Halo trying to stop something they themselves triggered? The system log updated again. Faster now. Lines flying like the heartbeat of a machine panicking. Trace window, 42%. Secondary fingerprint stability, high. Environmental metadata collected. Environmental metadata. That meant sound levels, device characteristics, network architecture. Everything that could build a profile of where I was. Even if encrypted, even if proxied, metadata leaks. And whatever this system was, it was harvesting every drop. Winter Halo finally sent another message. I need you to run a counter script. I'm sending it. Execute immediately. Don't analyze, don't alter, just run. The file arrived. Encrypted, encoded. Marked as volatile, meaning it would self-destruct after execution. I didn't want to run it. Files from unknown actors can be backdoors, payloads, traps, but the trace window hit 63%. If I didn't act, they'd find me anyway. So I ran it. The moment the script launched, my screen went black for 2 seconds. Not the usual backlight drop, a true blackout, every pixel dead. When it came back, I saw streams of characters rewriting routing paths, injecting noise into my metadata trail, poisoning the trace. But then something unexpected happened. The script didn't stop at masking. It reached through the relay, deeper than it should have been able to, and attacked the remote system. A direct strike. Logs flashed. Countermeasures detected. Barrier breach attempt logged. Secondary target masking incomplete. Winter Halo messaged again. It's not enough. They're too fast. Disconnect the workstation physically. Now. And that's where part 1 ends. The moment I had to choose between trusting a stranger who dragged me into a trap or trusting my own instincts, knowing either choice could destroy everything. I stared at the message telling me to disconnect physically, my hand hovering over the cable. If I pulled it, I'd sever the connection instantly. But if Winter Halo was right, it would also give the system exactly what it needed to finish the trace. I've been in tight situations before, but never one where staying connected and disconnecting were equally dangerous. The screen flickered again, a warning that the counterscript was losing the fight. The terminal updated with frantic speed. Trace window, 81%. Geolocation triangulation initializing. Secondary fingerprint, stable. That last line made my skin crawl. A stable fingerprint meant they had enough data to identify and track me even outside this immediate session. That's not something everyday hackers or random deep web operators can accomplish. This was someone with institutional-level resources, someone who could turn a digital trail into a physical threat. I forced myself to breathe slowly. Panic is how people get sloppy, and sloppy is how people get found. I typed to Winter Halo, "If I disconnect, they'll finish the trace." The reply came instantly, almost too fast to have been typed by a human. "If you stay connected, they'll breach you. Choose the smaller threat." I didn't have time to argue. The trace window hit 87%. I yanked the cable. Everything went dark. Not just the session, but every monitor connected to the deep web rig. Fans spun down. The device I used for darknet operations powered off completely, as if it had lost electrical supply. That wasn't supposed to happen. My setup isolates the relay machine from physical power influence. It has redundancies, safeguards, hardware-level protections, but this was like a total blackout, triggered remotely. For a few seconds, the room was dead silent, the kind of silence that feels too heavy to be natural. Then, slowly, my main workstation rebooted. Not the deep web device, but my everyday system. That should have been impossible. They weren't even connected. Completely separate networks, separate hardware, separate power feeds. The fact that it rebooted meant the trace had reached far enough to interfere with things outside the sandbox. That's when fear truly hit me. I didn't wait. I grabbed my portable EMP pulse stick, and a crude safeguard but effective for wiping volatile memory, and triggered it against the deep web machine. A sharp pop, a short static burst, and the device died for good. Better a dead machine than a compromised one. As the monitors stabilized, my secure inbox pinged. Somehow, despite everything that happened, Winter Halo managed to send one last message through a channel that shouldn't have been reachable after the disconnect. They have your thread, but not your location. You're not safe, but you're not exposed yet. Do not access the node again. I typed back, "Who are they?" The reply, "You don't want to know." Then another message. "They've gone after D19. That reset triggered their protocol early. They weren't ready for an outsider. That's why they tagged you. You interfered with an active operation." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My mind was spinning, replaying every detail, every line of code, every log entry. The phrase "observation node" echoed again and again in my head. These weren't casual watchers. This wasn't a surveillance hobbyist group. And if they were physically extracting someone, D19, then they were the kind of organization that treats human subjects like data points in a controlled experiment. You don't get mixed up with people like that and walk away unchanged. I unplugged everything in the room, stripping cables, pulling drives, disabling every device that held even a fragment of my deep web setup. I worked fast, methodically, trying to drown the growing sense that I'd already done too little too late. Even though my identity was hidden behind layers of proxies and noise, metadata is persistent. Metadata leaks, and once someone has your digital thread, even if scrambled, they have a starting point. When I finished nuking the rig, I sat on the floor, breathing hard, surrounded by dead hardware. For the first time in years, I felt exposed, naked, like something was watching me through the walls, not in a supernatural sense, in a technical one. A presence scanning the edges of the network, waiting for me to slip, to reconnect, to let a single packet out that it could latch onto. Hours passed. Nothing happened. No breach attempts, no pings, no strange traffic. Whoever they were, they had backed off. For now. Maybe the counterscript Winter Halo sent had poisoned the trail enough to make them lose momentum. Maybe the sudden disconnect bought me time. Or maybe they simply weren't interested in me anymore once I was no longer useful. I almost convinced myself of that. Until the next day. When I woke up, I found an envelope sliding under my door. No address. No markings. Inside was a single piece of paper with a handwritten message. "Stay out of restricted systems. We don't warn twice." There was no signature, no symbol, no indication of who sent it. only the overwhelming realization that they knew where I lived. They hadn't attacked, they hadn't threatened, they hadn't even demanded anything. They simply left a warning, a subtle way of saying, "We see you. We know you were there. Don't do it again." I stared at that note for a long time. It wasn't fear that kept me still. It was the unanswered question that had been digging deeper into my mind since the moment I accessed the mystery system. Who was D19? Why did they need their password reset? And why did resetting that access trigger a full-blown extraction? Normal people don't get extracted. Normal profiles don't have tracking beacons tied to them. Normal systems don't have their own private sub-darknet infrastructure. Whoever D19 was, they were important. To someone dangerous enough to operate a covert observation network and send real-world messengers to my doorstep. I considered contacting Winter Halo again, but I knew better. Anyone who operates inside the orbit of an organization like that isn't someone you reach out to casually. And judging by the silence after their last message, I suspected they had gone underground themselves. Maybe voluntarily, maybe not. The safest move would have been to walk away completely. Burn the note, forget the job, never mention it again. Pretend none of it happened. But the deep web doesn't let go of you that easily. A simple password reset had become a thread woven into a larger tapestry, one I couldn't unsee now. And sometimes when you catch even a glimpse of what lies beneath the surface, your brain refuses to go back to believing the ocean is shallow. Weeks passed. No more messages. No more envelopes. No more signs of surveillance. Life returned to its usual rhythm, or at least the closest thing to normal a hacker living in the underbelly of the internet can experience. But every time I took a new job, I triple-checked the system architecture, the origins of the request, the behavior of the client. Every new IP felt like a potential hidden node. Every relay felt like a trap. Every simple request felt like something that could explode into another nightmare. Then one night, weeks after I thought the whole thing had faded, I received an encrypted ping through a channel I had abandoned after the incident. A channel that should have been dead. Someone revived it. A tiny message appeared, decrypted automatically because it used one of my old keys. They found D19, extraction complete. Don't get involved again. No sender ID, no handle, no signature. But I recognized the way the letters were spaced, the rhythm of the phrasing, the cautious tone behind it. It was Winter Halo. They were alive. And if they were sending me this message, it meant they wanted to close the loop, to make sure I knew the story was over, at least from their perspective. But here's the problem. Stories like this never really end. They rest, they wait. They sleep under the surface like dormant code waiting for a trigger. Every time a new client contacts me now, I wonder if the request is real, or if it's another doorway into something I'm not supposed to see. I learned something the night of the D19 reset. The deep web isn't a place of secrets. It's a place of systems, invisible machinery. Networks built for purposes the average person will never understand. And sometimes when you stumble into those systems by accident, they don't destroy you. They recruit you, or warn you to stay away. And I don't know which one happened to me yet. What I do know is this. Next time I get a message asking for a simple password reset, I won't take the job. Some stones aren't meant to be turned, some doors aren't meant to be opened, and some clients, no matter how harmless they seem, are connected to things that operate on a level way above the pay grade of freelancers like me. But part of me also knows something else. If Winter Halo ever contacts me again, if I ever see another account tagged as an observation node, if the name D19 crosses my screen once more, I won't walk away. Because curiosity is a dangerous thing, and once you taste a mystery this deep, this dark, this far-reaching, it never truly lets you go. And that's the truth about the night a simple password reset turned into the most dangerous contract of my life. Thank you for watching this story until the end. It means more than you know, to have someone out there listening to the things that happen in the shadows of the digital world, the things most people will never hear about. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share it with someone who loves this kind of deep web content. It helps the channel survive and lets me keep bringing real stories from the hidden corners of the internet. Until next time, if I'm still around.